Hello, everyone. This is Cody and the Fawn Pod hosts. We're here tonight to talk about a little indie video game called Thank Goodness You're Here. And unlike the title, we have some hosts in the house tonight that, whatever, they're here, but no big deal. Not thank goodness. They're just here with us. So, Brett and Justin and Joe also, unfortunately, is here. So there's that. But let's talk about this game in just a bit. Let's see what everybody has been up to in the last week. I'm willing to bet it's been more than I have been up for the last week. So let's take a peek. And let's start with Joe this time. He can tell us how Buffy got this week.
Why, Governor, I've been sweeping some chimneys in it.
Oh, blimey.
I honestly haven't really been up to much this week. Still kind of just watching some of the same shows I've mentioned before, playing some of the same games I've mentioned before. I did just finish playing through the Shivering Isles DLC for the Elder Scrolls 4: Oblivion, which I previously mentioned that I was playing that game once again, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Otherwise, nothing too exciting. I have been working out a bunch. It took about a week off to give my body a rest because I felt like I was overtraining a little bit, but I'm back at it this week and that's cool. So, lift heavy things, everybody. But other than that, I don't have much going on.
Okay. Justin, how much have you been up to?
Um, Oddly enough, I've also been working out here
Sweeping
and there
chimneys?
a little
Oh.
bit. Uh, Oddly enough, for the Halloween party that you've got coming up, several of my costume
Oh,
ideas require, well, not require, but they'd look better if I was a bit more in shape. So I have a feeling I haven't been hitting the weights as hard as Joe has, but maybe we'll see in a couple of months
no,
how that turns out.
no amount of weights
Um,
is going to make you look Spanish, Justin.
Not with that attitude.
We know what your
Um,
costume is. Nice try, Mr. Uppercut.
you think you do.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but let's see. Aside from that, if I sound a little off, it's because I'm kind of drunk. We had our yearly member appreciation picnic at work today, which it, I've been to like six of these.
Wait, they have booze at that?
No, I wish. Um,
Oh,
but no, one was canceled for COVID, and all but and five of them, including this one, had horrible rain and just really high winds.
oh my
So
God,
it's like,
again.
yeah, the rest of this week was sunny and clear, not a cloud in the damn sky. We start setting things up this morning, and within 30 minutes, rain is just pelting down on top of the tent. The wind is like trying to blow the rain in sideways. It was freaking terrible. So yeah, I might be a little bit tipsy, but that's why. So I guess other than all of that, I did go to see Alien Romulus this past week, and surprisingly good film. I mean, it's up there with the original two, I think. Not as good
Wow.
as either of them, but it is a very solid horror actiony kind of sci-fi movie. If you had any reservations going into it, I would say give it a shot. It is definitely worth seeing, especially in theaters.
How many predators are in the film? Just spoil it for me.
Thankfully, none.
I'm fighting
Boo.
so
Don't.
hard to not say a spoiler that I know right now.
I mean, if you say it, it's not on me.
I'm
Is,
not.
is,
I'm
is
not.
Spock in it?
Marvel
Again?
Spock. But no, it's worth seeing in theaters, definitely. That's kind of it for me, at least as of what I can remember at this point. So
Fair enough.
I'm curious
And
about that movie, but when it comes to horror films, they don't get much shyer than me.
oh
was
yeah,
that
it definitely leans back into the horror
was that a
element for
Shia
sure.
LaBeouf pun? What just happened?
Shire.
John Cryer?
It's a spoiler for Alien Romulus. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fair enough.
I just like
Okay.
to note that I like screwed up my own joke because Spock isn't a Romulan. But anyways,
I didn't even put that together because I didn't even know that
I
that's
thought
where
you
you're
were
going
saying
with that. So
ridiculous.
I did also. was thought it would be like Spock was saying, like, you are always have been my friend, and then they'd pan to the alien instead of Kirk. All right, Brett, what have you been up to?
Well, I have found myself suddenly venturing into something that I am somewhat familiar with, and also at the same time completely not familiar with, and
What are you making with AI now?
well, that's a secret. But what I am doing that's not AI is I'm suddenly find myself coaching youth soccer. Having not played a game of soccer in my entire lifetime, I am now coaching soccer. So we will see how that goes. Long story short, basically my kids are playing soccer this year, and they were short on coaches to the point where like they if they didn't have another coach, they were gonna have to like consolidate teams and have like less teams and cram kids and whatever else. But yeah, so so I find myself coaching a team now, which they actually have a pretty good setup. They gave me like this a whole packet of stuff with all the information. It even has like a whole booklet, like a guide on how to coach youth soccer. So I will be studying that
Wow.
quite a bit over the next week or so.
Have you seen the series Ted Lasso?
I have not.
You should
Would-
watch that. It's
would it
all
be
you need to
helpful?
know about soccer.
Okay.
Have you seen the movie Kicking and Screaming?
I actually haven't seen that either.
How about The Big Green with the kid from The Sandlot?
No.
Invictus?
No.
Um,
Bend it like Beckham.
damn it!
And no.
Pirates
So yes,
of the Caribbean 2?
Yes.
Not related, so that doesn't help.
Oh.
I was
Well,
going to say
pitch, but not the American Jimmy Fallon one.
I was going to say alive, but that was rugby, not soccer.
I thought that was cannibalism.
Why not both?
The balls were made of heads, just like the olden days.
so I mean we'll see how it goes. I mean I do you guys know I have quite a bit of experience coaching just bowling, not soccer.
Shaolin soccer.
I will try
Oh,
and
man.
channel what I can into this new experience, which I'm sure is going to be a lot of fun. I'm coaching my own kids along with some other same age kids, some of which they are friends with themselves. So sure to be a good time, but also I'm expecting it to be a bit of a mess.
It's a little funny that you went from like a sport where you have to like have total hand control on the ball to the one where they're like, don't touch the ball.
Zero kicking to all kicking.
Yeah. That's how you can get them in shape, though. Have them kick bowling balls around for a couple
Ooh,
days.
that's a good. I got a bunch in my
geez.
basement. I can just bring those in and
Soccer
There you
balls
go,
are going to
kids.
feel so light, you guys.
gotta-
Just wait.
we got to work up them leg muscles here. Kick these bowling balls around.
The force behind those kicks by the time they're done training.
It'd be fantastic. What did you binge this week, Brett? Any shows?
We made it through the first season of Sweet Home, and we
Okay.
started on the second season.
Okay.
The way I described it to my wife when we got done with the first season was, it has all these it leaves you with like a ton of questions, but unlike Lost, where you felt like these unanswered questions had meaning, like a reason behind them, this show has no reason behind anything that's happening. It's just random things happening, and you're like, what? What the fuck?
Did you
So-
find Reese Witherspoon annoying still, or does she get better as it goes on?
Was she one of the monsters?
No. I thought this was about down south. Isn't this? What are we talking
No,
about? Oh, this is not Sweet Home Alabama?
nope, it's not.
I
It's
apologize.
just Sweet Home Korea.
Okay. I love that song, Leonard Skinner. Love it. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. As kind of mentioned in the onset, have been just ridiculously busy. My kids had events 5 nights this week.
Oh,
And in addition to that, I had an open house for myself back at school for parents last night. And it's just been really busy. Karen, my wife was out of town for 3 days as well. So I was single parenting a little bit for 3 days. It's been a week. So in terms of leisure, I haven't done much. I think I did get in like a 45-minute session of Fallout 4. I don't even remember when because days are blending. I have read a little bit more. I'm on the last book of the Mistborn series still that I've been reading, but I haven't had the energy to pick up a book at the end of the night. So that's kind of, I'm in real danger of kind of not hitting the August book of the month club here because I have like 400 pages to go yet. So that's a concern. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. We did play a session of My City last weekend. I don't know that I mentioned that on the podcast, which I have already recommended that game on here. But if you have anybody, even a person that you think you would play a game with repetitively, it's like a legacy style game with, I think, 21 or 24 scenario chapters. And it's pretty affordable too. It's like $30, $40. I'd recommend it if you're going to play with two, play with three, play with four. We play with the kids, but it's pretty fantastic. And the rules changed enough that like I was kicking ass on the first like 10 games we played, and now I am like drastically losing the last like six or seven we've played. So it has kind of rebalanced itself out, which is nice. So check that out if you're interested. And have not made as much progress in watching video game adaptations this week as I'd hoped, but I did watch, I think, two or three episodes of a show that I'm currently on. So we'll see when we get to that what that was. Also. All right, well, we are here, and I thank these guys because this was a game I think I brought to them as an idea for a podcast. This game is called Thank Goodness You're Here, and it is a very German game, to say the least.
I
You mean
don't
British?
understand the title you just said.
Oh, sorry. Thank goodness you're here. Is that?
Thank goodness you're here.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Oh,
All right, this is called Thank Goodness You're Here. This is described as a quote slapformer instead of a platformer, but I've seen it listed as action, adventure, comedy, a bunch of different titles for genres on this as well. Just for our quick intro on this, developer on this is Cole Supper. They have a kind of interesting little animation at the beginning of this game when you turn it on. Publisher is Panic Incorporated, and interestingly, this is available on the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Windows, Mac, not the Microsoft consoles, which is interesting. I don't know why or what that's about.
Huh.
Um, Game currently has, are you ready for this? A 90% on Metacritic overall, and I believe in 8.0 for user scores. So pretty widespread acclaim for this one. We talked about, I think, at the beginning, before we even started playing it, that there is a little.
I don't want to interrupt you,
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
this something unprecedented is happening here.
Uh-oh, what did Jason Isbell do now?
You said it's a 90% on Metacritic?
Yeah, is that right up there by that movie you love?
That means that this game has an 8% higher score than the movie Hitman starring Glenn Powell. My God. Our
Uh,
champion has been defeated. I mean, that's on Metacritic, whereas in the past I've compared to Rotten Tomatoes, but
I'm just happy all of the fake email accounts I have been making over the last 2 weeks have paid off finally. So, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. All right, where was I at here? Let's see. This is yeah, so one of the criticisms I think maybe we mentioned before we even played the game is that it is a very short game, which we'll talk about as we get into this as well. So
I
if
think this
you
is
are
literally the shortest game I've ever played in my life.
I know it's shorter than one turn of blue playing Sonic Spinball, so there's that. It is very short. So I guess when we talk about value to dollar ratio and talk about our ratings at the end, we'll see who incorporates that how in their overall score. But that's what we got. One liner on this one just said, oh, actually, it's a two liner, I guess. Thank goodness you're here. This is from I forget which website I got this off of. An adventure video game developed by a British studio. Coal Supper, published by Panic. Players take the role of a traveling salesman who performs odd jobs for the residents of a bizarre town in northern England. And that's kind of the intro to this game. So,
See,
um,
I didn't even remember that we were a salesman. I thought we were working for like a newspaper or a TV station or something.
I don't remember doing any odd jobs for anyone.
really,
Oh, you got that ending.
Like
you
it,
just,
it's you literally just sit there and then the game ends.
I mean, know, but
It's
um,
true. It's true. That's how that guy got an 18-minute speed run time.
Oh,
Once you get to the mayor's office in this game,
mhm.
if you just let your character sit there for like somewhere between 15 and 18 minutes, the mayor will come out and be like, "Oh, I cleared my schedule after all. Come on in." And the game just ends.
Really?
This is 100% true. I did it myself earlier today.
Wow. That's
That's why I
funny.
said
oh
it's the
man.
shortest game I've ever played.
That's a good little hidden Easter egg.
Oh,
That's a real
yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
tricksy.
good Del Lago moment there for the game. Okay, great. Don't shoot the water. All right. Yeah, but that's basically it. I mean, you kind of wander around this little wacky British village and encounter extremely unusual characters in this town who all have their own little stories and kind of interact with them and how they interact with each other and do some little tasks for them here and there, um, and cause a little mischief along the way. But basically, you can walk, you can jump, and you can slap things, and that's kind of it. Uh,
You can also push things
oh, that's true.
sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes that's true. Yeah. So I'm going to start with just kind of the intro to this game because I did get a chance to at least replay that a second time through. But the game kind of launches into the intro credits with, I think, everything you as a player need to know about what you're getting into here. And so it starts with like some live action shots of some basically like flat row houses that look like they're in a very English place. And there's kind of like this music playing in the background. And then we get these. I think four or five, I was going to count. I think at least four. It might be five little commercials that happen in the beginning. And then we find out later those are all like products in game that you'll find later on in the world. Um, Tiny Tom's Tiny Pies, Big Ron's Big Pies. There was something about like butter nubs, I think was one. I think one I'm forgetting. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, beans.
Beans.
It's a dessert.
Beans.
Sure is. Not
Beans
quite
for your
beans,
gout.
not quite peas. Beans. And then you kind of get into the scene Joe was talking about. Well, actually, there's a little bit before that where you're like sent to the city, but
Well, and that's, I mean, getting back to what Justin said about forgetting that you're a salesman, like when the first time I played this game, I thought I had missed something because I was like, what am I selling? Like, what?
Hmm.
I seriously thought I had just kind of like zoned out and missed part of the story. But when I replayed it today, like the game starts, you're in an office talking to your boss, and the boss literally says, "Oh, the citizens of this town need what we're selling." Does not say what that is. It's
ah,
literally just like, "I need you to go to this town." Okay, bye.
yeah, it's basically an excuse to just throw you into the town. I replayed that part today and still didn't hear that part, so I also forgot that we were like selling anything as we were in here. Okay, let's see. Um, Yeah, there's just something like that intro again, just has kind of like some weird live action shots that I don't know. Do you think those are actual period shot footage? They kind of look like it, but I wasn't sure.
I wondered. I don't know why it wouldn't be. I mean, there's nothing about it that struck me as being like not of that era.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I'm assuming the budget for this game was pretty small, so it would make sense if they just used stock footage.
Yeah, be funny to think that you were like a kid playing in like the 70s and now you're like the intro to this video game in 2024. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're pretty instantly into like a 70s British comedy type feeling for this, which is kind of where you're gonna head in the game, and the humor in this game is gonna be extremely British. Well, even to the point where, right, did you guys do I think one of you at least mentioned in the options for the game before you start, you
Yeah.
can choose like whether you want to use the dialect or not.
Yeah, like the very first thing you see in the game when you like first load it up is, I forget what the options are, but it's basically you can have all the like menus and text be in like very heavy Northern English dialect or in like more standard English.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that meant. I don't remember what I picked.
I went over to it because I usually check the options or the settings on the screen, but it was like I don't know what the two words were. It was like go for it and like fuff or something. And I was like, the
Yeah.
fuck is this? I don't even know what this is. But I felt like I had to do it with the dialect because I felt like that
Hmm.
was how they were purposely presenting it to us. So
I'm trying to find what the song is that plays like during the the stock footage when you're
mm,
traveling to the town. Because right off the bat, that song is like super suggestive. It's about something
yeah.
about like a big one, like must be 18 inches or something. And, like this
Oh yeah.
throughout this game, there's just all this like super suggestive humor.
Yep. I
Yes,
didn't
it
think they made them
is.
like this anymore, but apparently they do in Britain.
Wow. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, that's essentially the game. You're going around trying to solve little quests for people. Um, we kind of
Oh,
debated even in our group chat, like if the game is broken into chapters or not. Like they do have like these little title cards they put up in between certain things. So I think maybe some websites were counting those as chapters per se, but those even don't even like sometimes it's like mid-action and they'll throw a title card up and
Mhm.
there's no real like rules that they stick to for that as well. But just to like give the audience a sense of humor in this game, like I said, I only had a chance to replay about 5 minutes of this, but we start with like you in the mayor's office, and the secretary is like taping solitaire cards to her computer screen to try to play solitaire, and they're like falling down on her as she's doing this. Um, and then you walk out of the office and instantly see like a guy with his arm stuck in a drain.
oh my God, that guy.
Yeah. Oh. And one of the first times I probably like guffawed out loud was when you realize like you basically just walk up and slap people and you can get two lines of dialogue out of everyone as you do. And the guy who operated Nick's Bricks that I was trying to help him open his shutters and then he did and it was just a brick wall and I was like, that's hilarious.
It's a brick wall with a sign that says Nick's Bricks
Nick
on it.
Bricks.
Yeah. And she's selling the bricks out of the wall. And then immediately after that, you get like super suggestive dialogue just by walking like 5 feet away. That's about as far as I remade it in the little
Yeah.
that I got to play it today.
Like
But the
every
guys,
character in this game is super horny.
yes, the guys. That's why before I think everybody had played it, I was like, did they play test this with like any women whatsoever? Because right away it's like, oh, my wife could learn a thing or two from this, and then you do the little lawn mowing thing right there too, and the guy is like, ah, Reggie's wife could learn a thing or two about the grip you have. And I was like, wait a second. What was
Wait
he?
a dick.
Did
Or
Reggie
there's
tell tales or does this guy know Reggie's wife? Which way are we to take this? I'm
I
thinking
think
the latter, but
one of my favorite things is the guy who's fixing the fryer in the chip shop and like the discussion about how she's gonna pay him for his services.
I was just thinking about that.
yeah.
No, we're not paying that way again. I didn't walk right for weeks. I only just now got the vinegar smell out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very
so
quotable game.
I don't know. Is there anything we want to say about gameplay other than the humor, but is there anything about the gameplay style? Did it work for you? Did you just think it was too simple? Did it work just because it was basically for humor's sake? I know, Joe, you had mentioned on like your
Justin looks like
replay.
he's gonna explode. I
Well,
had
I
mentioned
don't want
what?
to explode, but I would have, I think, preferred it if there was a little more of the old school adventure game kind of elements to it. Like, if you had an inventory of stuff you picked up and it's like
hmm,
use chicken on, Angry Man or something like that, and just a little way to experiment like that. So it was pretty simple, but I mean, the writing was weird and funny enough that I'm willing to give it a little bit of a pass on that.
Yeah, like you say, there's so little that you can do. It's literally just walking and slapping and, and jumping, and that's literally it. And you would think that after a while you'd get like, wow, this is there's I've just run out of things to do and I'm just bored. But it's like for at least me personally, I kept finding myself like engaged with what I was doing and like entertained and like moving, kept moving forward with these these quests and things these people want me to do. Um, like despite there being so little to do, technically speaking, I never found myself bored or feeling like I didn't have enough to do with the game, which seems unlikely, but that's just how it feels.
Uh, no, I will say I feel like the like gameplay and control scheme was perfect for this game. And I mean, I don't feel like the developers, they didn't want this to be like an old school adventure game or actually a platformer or anything. Like this is mostly exists to convey their sense of humor, which is like amazing. But also, I did get to a point on my initial playthrough a couple hours in where I was kind of getting frustrated by like the limitations of the gameplay, and I didn't feel like I was running out of things to do, but I was like things were starting to feel kind of redundant, and like I was starting to feel like I was over things. But then it turns out that that's also kind of the point of the game, and it takes a genius turn that we can get to later. Um, but yeah, I mean, by and large, I think the game, like I said, I think the gameplay is perfect for this game. Like, I don't think I'd want to see anyone try to, copy this slapformer style per se, but
Mhm.
I think it works here for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, so the little world you walk around in is basically, I forget, maybe six different screens of things that you can look around at, and there's kind of like a tunnel that you go down from this screen to this screen, or maybe there's like a drain pipe you got to go down, or a literal drain in some cases, different things you're doing to try to like go from this little map portion to this little map portion. And they do a couple interesting things of like this route's blocked now, so you have to find like a new way to get through. But for the most part, I actually got a little frustrated with that myself because it was like I knew where I needed to go, but I couldn't always find the route, even though the world was ridiculously small. I was like, how did I get there again? Like, oh, I went
Hmm.
down this alleyway and then, you know, climbed into this
Yeah.
other thing and then managed to find where it was supposed to be. So, um,
I
I
feel like
both,
that was by design too, though. Like, I think that was part of what they end up getting at.
yeah, well, and it lengthens the game a little bit if you have
Yeah.
to move around a little bit more. I, I, I did like and also was a little frustrated by, the characters, like I said, basically had the two dialogue options that they would say if you hit them twice. And then they really wouldn't say anything else until like you progressed the story. So I did, on the one hand, enjoy that like by hitting the people and they weren't saying anything. I was like, okay, it's me that's like missing something yet. Like I haven't done what I needed to do necessarily in this part. And then when you manage to do that, then people would move around the world and they'd be in some new position, sometimes literally,
Wait,
of what they were doing. And yeah, it was kind of clever. Like you felt like you were experiencing the town for like 2 hours essentially, which is about how long the game is. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's chat just a little bit about this humor of the game then. So we had a lot of mostly verbal humor in this. There was, I guess, maybe a little bit of situational humor and some sight gags as well, but let's just fire a couple out there. What were some of the memorable bits for you guys? I'm kind of curious. Maybe we each had like certain things that we liked the most or memorable
Um,
scenes.
well, for me, it was kind of the running gag with the title. Because you could end up like falling through somebody's roof or having a cow kick you through a fence, and the person on the other side would be like, "Oh, thank goodness you're here!" Just like not even registering what you did and the destruction you caused, except for one guy, the guy whose chimney you keep falling down. He's like the only one who notices that you're a destructive force in the world, and he gets increasingly unhinged as you keep destroying his house.
That guy was
I
great.
I seriously, after a certain point, I like actually felt bad for that guy. Like every
Yeah.
time I knew I had to go back down the chimney, I was like, oh no, this poor bastard.
Yeah.
He's like
Uh,
he's like pacing at the bottom of the chimney, like waiting for you to come down and ruin it again.
yep.
Well, in my replay, like I got to a point where he's just like, oh, I really didn't expect to see you yet again today. Like he's just like trying to play it nice, but like just sounds broken inside.
Yeah.
It is interesting that like you're a salesman. Now, the more I think about this, like, why are all these people saying, "Thank goodness you're here" to you? Then, period. Like, they don't know who you are. You're not from the city, so
Look, you
Maybe
can
what
help them.
he's. Oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Justin.
you can help them clean up their fish, or do odd jobs.
I
You're
mean,
free
we don't
labor.
know. Yeah, we don't know what he's selling. Maybe he's
yes,
just selling general handyman
general
services,
laborers.
or
Yep,
I don't know,
yep,
general slaps.
yep. Um,
Uh,
go ahead.
But I was just gonna say that I one thing is that's cool about this game is there's a lot of stuff I think that you probably could miss if you're not like exploring the world like within like the chapter or scene that you're like currently working on. Like if you don't just go around and like talk to everybody, there's like a lot of really
Mm,
funny interactions and things that you could potentially miss. Um, but I think like one of my favorite things, like this is one that you could potentially miss because it's not part of any of the any of the things that you need to be doing. But there's the guy like in the food truck.
oh
Did you
yeah,
guys? You can
yeah,
like hop up in the window of the food truck and you can slap his ass.
yeah. And then
And
he
like
pulls on he puts a site up that says something like "closed due to slappy bum bum" or something
yes,
like
exactly.
that.
Close to the smacky bum bum.
Smacky bum bum.
Which he just apparently has ready for that circumstance.
Oh,
Um
that was one of my
Not his
favorite
first
things.
rodeo.
and
Oh,
like that particular situation, like the first time, like you slap him once, he like immediately closes it. But like later in the game, if you can like keep going back, I don't know if it's just naturally or like you have to do it a certain amount of times, but like the last time that I like encountered him, I like slapped him once. He was like, "Oh, that's good." And I slapped him again, and he was like, "Oh, don't stop." And I like slapped him a third time, and he was like, "Oh no, that's enough." He closed his shutters. It's
Oh,
just this
uh,
ridiculous situation.
Oh my
there's
gosh.
there's the guy who likes to put sausages through the fence
Oh my god.
for some reason.
Did they ever officially show who that was?
No,
no,
I don't
I
think they
don't think
do.
so.
Like they don't really. It's just like, oh,
Oh, I've dropped it.
got a
Oh, here's
sausage
another
for
one.
you.
I
I
got it for you.
dropped it
Oh, and I
again.
dropped that
Oh.
one too.
He like just like then he's gone for a while, and then he comes back and he's like, I've got some more sausages.
I'll be
Like
careful
so.
with this one. Oh, I dropped it.
I mean,
Oh
apparently
my
it's just his
gosh.
cheek.
It was weird.
I got a
Um.
weird kick out of the man and woman who kept getting stuck in the trash cans.
Oh yeah, I love that. Well, I love how their relationship just evolves. Like they
Yeah.
Yeah.
start off fighting with each other, and then they're like playing cards with each other at some
Yeah.
point. Like,
Yeah.
They end up in like the same trash can. It's just yeah, that was great because it was just like running dialogue every time you saw them. It was like a little further with like
Yeah.
10 versions of it
yeah.
until you got the whole thing to the end, which is hilarious.
I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the game also features the voice talent of Matt Berry, who is
Love Doctor Who.
one of my favorite doctors. No, one of my favorite actors. I love British comedy. Matt Berry has been in all kinds of things, including The Mighty Boosh, and he had a series called Toast of London, which was amazing. American audiences might know him from the IT Crowd, which kind of took off over here. Most recently in the Fallout TV series as both the voice of a Mr. Handy robot and in flashbacks, the actor who voiced said robot.
Hmm.
Okay.
Also, I mean, I guess, most famously recently playing Laszlo on What We Do in the Shadows, which is an amazing series.
It is.
But yeah, I love Matt Berry. He voices the gardener in this game, whose name I forget,
Ah.
but he's hilarious and weird. And also, I wanted to mention like this game gets weirdly dark at times with its humor, and like sometimes I don't know if I would even call it humor. I mean, with the gardener, there's like the whole subplot where he's trying to like get some water and fertilizer going so he can grow like a giant tomato, which he finally succeeds in, and then the tomato turns into like an anthropomorphic tomato child. And he's like, "Ah, my big beautiful boy!" And then in the next scene, he's eating it.
Yes.
Or like, one thing I don't know how I must have like zoned out the first time I played this, but in the like quest line with the chip shop, after you finally help them fix the fryer, the mechanic guy asks the woman like where she drains her oil to, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not really sure." And then they cut to like the fountain in the center of the town is just like spewing hot oil.
Everybody's
Like
running in
people
terror.
people are like running and screaming in terror, and then there's one woman who ostensibly is holding what was her baby, but is now like looks like a giant like fish fillet or something. Like,
That's right.
and she's like horrified for a second, and then she just starts putting salt on it. Like the humor is messed up, but then also there are scenes where it just goes to weird dark places. Like,
There's the meat.
The
yeah,
meat
well, so
dimension.
the first one is like at the pub where there's the locksmith who's clearly an alcoholic, and there's this weird kind of like scene where it's, kind of exploring that, how the first thing he does every morning is have a pint, and then he gets out of bed, and like that's kind of
Yeah.
tragic. But yeah, and then there's the meat scene when you go to, I think it's Sam's Hams.
Mhm.
Like that like hurt my brain and soul. That was so dark, like kind of diving into the mind of this butcher and like all this stuff that he was exposed to as a child. Like one Christmas, his father bought him and his sister each a lamb, but only one sheep knife that they had to share. Like it was just all this dark stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I learned where glue came from. Like
And I
he ends
wept.
each of, yeah, and I wept. Like
That's
it's
how
just
all of
this
the little vignettes
weird.
ended. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's like, I don't know, giving you an insight into the psyches of these different weird characters.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Yeah. Trying to look if there's other people that I found. Oh, you had to do this several times in the game, including part maybe Joe's alluding to later, but one of the memorable recalls was every time you'd land in the window at the fishmonger's place and you had to like hit all the fish to make like cigars or cigarettes,
Cigarettes.
cigars come
Yeah.
out of their mouth. Like every like, help me, this window needs to be fixed up. And you'd smack all the fish and then like all the cigars or cigarettes would pop up out of their mouths. It was so random, but
Uh,
so British and so funny
Yeah.
also.
I actually, on my second playthrough, I encountered like one of those that I had not encountered my first time through,
Oh.
where it was like a different array of seafood. There's
huh.
like clams and a crab,
Huh.
and the crab actually did like spit a cigar out of its mouth when you whacked it a couple times.
Huh.
So it seems like there's kind of some variety there.
Interesting.
That's good stuff.
Did you get the I don't know, I was presumably the last one. There's a certain fish, if you start slapping it, something suggests that it may not be a fish.
I don't think I saw that.
It it may be part of the fishmonger.
Oh.
There's, I kind of felt that was where the ending was going with part of it, but I didn't get to the thing you're talking about.
I can't remember if I got that or not.
Oh
Might be worth
no.
going back and checking that out.
Yeah, or maybe I blocked it out. I don't know.
Well, that is something that so on my second playthrough, I actually ended up doing this a few things in like different orders than I did the first time through, because I was trying to kind of rush through and do a speed play. And like I think it might be worth revisiting this game and taking some time with it and like revisiting different scenarios and characters, because I think some things do change like upon repeated visits.
Huh.
Hmm. Yeah, I was trying to remember Nick's Bricks. What did that evolve into after Nick's Bricks?
I actually didn't even get the Nick's Bricks thing the first time I
Oh,
played this game,
Oh, okay.
but
he
I got
starts
it on
selling the
my
furniture of the
second
guy
one.
who lives behind the wall, I think, once he
Yeah,
tears
Oh,
enough,
yeah, yeah,
enough
yeah.
of the
he
wall.
eventually sells the whole wall of bricks and then starts selling the guy's furniture from within the room.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's great. Oh my God. Also like just there was like the weird little homages to like Scooby-Doo and like where there's the one scene where you're like running across one way and it's like you have to
Mm,
go across the scene like 6 times to get to the other
Yeah.
side of the room.
yeah.
And I just like in that 5 minutes I was playing today, I remembered you play the part where you're like zooming the lawnmower and the daffodils are like talking to each other and they're like, I love you. And then you
I love
brutally
you.
chop one down. It's like, and it's all horrified. And then it turns and sees another daffodil. It's like, I love you.
Yeah. What the part that I
Um,
loved most about that one was the fact that like you had to cross the screen like 6 or 7
Yeah.
times, and like it's coming, and like each time you just get a little bit closer.
Was no gimme on
Yes.
that. That's, yeah, that was funny. And you had to go like really far to the side too, I noticed today. Like
yeah.
if you just went off the screen and then tried to go back, it was like you didn't go far enough yet. Keep going further, and then you can go
Yeah, I
back.
noticed that
Mm.
today too.
All right, see what else? Anything else in here, like humor wise? I mean, there's the whole game is just chock full of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everywhere you go, there's something humorous to encounter.
Joe really liked the guy who just kept getting stuck and needed help.
I did. I thought it was funny.
Or
Yeah.
the Fisher guy who what was at the bottom of the lake, like the hammer or something
Yeah, the
Oh,
hammer.
yeah.
that he didn't have to begin with, but the handyman thought he did.
I liked. So now that I think about it, that whole quest line where you're fetching all the tools is funny because the guy sends you to recover all of his tools, but
Yeah.
in every instance, as soon as you find the tool, he just appears and is like, oh, I knew you're no good, blah blah blah. Like, so he could have just got like you're there anyway. Like you could have just gone and
Yeah.
Well, I think
recovered.
that's like to Justin's point of how they got around like you never need an inventory because as soon as you find what you're looking for, like somebody shows up and they're like, there it is.
Yeah,
That's true.
So it's
I enjoyed the ducks telling somewhat dirty jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, forgot about them.
I liked the whole like rat society that's going on.
yeah.
Like, did anyone else get if you whacked, I think like 3 different trash receptacles with rats in them, one after the other, they would start singing like pleasing rat music.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know if I got that.
But yeah, I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff. I mean, I feel like you are rewarded if you just go around and slap everything you possibly can in this game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was the guy who was in charge of the ducks had like his own little den as well, which was like a lucid dream, I swear.
You
Yes.
mean
For the
myself,
seagulls?
Brigadier Beanton?
Is that the guy who was like on the shitter for half the game?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's like
Oh.
a deranged homeless person who lives in the world's largest dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Like,
mean,
yeah,
it looks better on the inside than you'd expect.
that's true.
maybe it's a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside.
Yeah. I mean, it's very British.
Also liked the grocery store girls.
Oh yeah,
Where they like were the two sisters, weren't two of them sisters in the game?
Mhm.
They like
Yeah,
think
Florence and something or another. Yeah.
the older one just kept playing like the meanest tricks on the younger one, or saying the
Mhm.
meanest things to her. It was so good.
Oh.
But everybody in the town, like no matter what you did, are like fucked up. They were just like, well, whatever, whatever. Just life goes on. No big deal.
Yeah.
You're ruining all this stuff. It's okay. The
Oh.
ceiling just collapsed. No big deal. Whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Anything else on humor in the game? I mean, it was really funny all over.
yes.
Yeah,
Um,
I can agree with that.
do we want to just talk about that ending for a little bit? Because my God,
Oh man.
Oh,
Oh
my
my
God,
Oh,
that
your
was
God.
like it
I'm
was like
not.
it was like WarioWare mixed with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. If you're not familiar with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, then it's probably a good thing.
I feel like I literally had the perfect experience with this game and the ending. Like I was finally at a point where I was just kind of like over like the repetitive fetch quests and the fact that you can't move easily from one place to another, like it just the getting from scene to scene is like super cumbersome. I literally like in our group chat we have like I think Cody said something about the ending, and I was like, "This game ends." Like I was just like over it, and like 5 minutes later, I got to the ending, and I was just like, "Jesus Christ, this is genius!" Like it was like it just worked on me. I think in exactly the way they wanted it to, and it's just like perfection. Like so after I mean, we've discussed the title. Everyone you meet in this town says, "Thank goodness you're here," and like asks you to do something for them, and it just goes on and on and on, and then finally you get to like it's like a psychotic break or fever dream. Like it's like the world's most anxiety inducing musical number,
Yes.
Mhm.
and it's just like I mean, like Justin said, it's kind of this weird like WarioWare sequence where you're doing like these quick like back and forth motions with your controller and stuff, but the point is it's just like your character is just overwhelmed, like everyone is just asking you to do all these things constantly, and there's like no fucking end to it ever. And also this sequence gets really weird because maybe you're actually chopping up the fishmonger. I don't know what's going
Or beating a
on.
cop to death,
Yeah,
or
like beating
yeah.
a cop to death. Like it's this weird, dark, like super mind fucky sequence, and it's just like it was like sheer perfection, I thought.
Yeah, I also thought it was a really great just like the length of the song was even perfect. Like you get to the point, I got to the point where I was like, does this ever end? Like how long am I going to keep doing this like over and over? And like I
Yes.
was having fun with it. I was entertained, but I was like,
Yeah.
how long does this go? Because I felt like it was going forever.
Well, it was
Mhm.
I think like I've experienced some like comedic things where like they'll just kind of repeat something and it's like funny at first and then it stops being funny. But then if it goes on long enough, it eventually becomes funny
It's funny
again.
again.
And like
Yeah.
that's how I felt about this sequence.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like I think it's literally like almost 6 minutes long.
Yeah, it looks like it's 4 minutes and 14 seconds. I'm
Okay.
watching
Oof.
on YouTube here, but it is dark as shit. Like I just
Yeah. It's like
he's like
it's
cleaning up the shopkeeper's blood and like he's petting that dog until like its innards come out and oh my God. Every time you go back to these like 6 or 8 little vignettes, like it gets worse every
yeah.
time you go
Yep.
back to them. But
I was curious, like, do you actually have to do the motions to continue it, or does it like would it just keep going on repeat if you weren't touching the controller?
Ooh.
I was just wondering that also. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't
Like the
know.
song goes so fast, you think it would have to just go,
Yeah, I would
right?
think it would
Hmm.
have to just continue, but yeah, it's a good question.
Huh.
I felt like I was like panicked enough to do them all, but
Mhm.
I don't know if you needed to.
I know I screwed up a couple of them just because I wasn't expecting a few of the things that happened, and it did seem like it kind of rewound a little bit
Hmm.
to an earlier prompt, but at the same time, it
Oh,
was a little bit different. So it still kind of progressed, but it didn't seem like it flowed as, just breakneck speed as it did once I was really in the groove of it all. So so I think if you do screw up, it does like bring you back a little, but I'm not 100% sure.
I kind of hope that's the case, to be honest. That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm checking this out again. It is just so crazy.
I would like
Yes.
I was blown away, especially like I said, like the point I had gotten to mentally. Like I feel like I was exactly where they wanted me to be when that ending hit.
Oh.
Yes, if you haven't played this game, and even if you're not going to watch it and you want to watch the ending of this on YouTube, it's just, I mean, non-ironically, it is one of the greatest endings that I can think of in recent memory. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So good. So
Uh,
good. All right. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to chat about on this one? I mean, it's a short game. Do we want to talk about the length? Did that really impact your experience? This
talk
was
about
about $20 and you got about 2 hours. Is that
eh, that's the main sticking point for me. Like I enjoyed my time with this, but even getting it on sale for I think I managed to snag it for like 16 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it was on Steam when I got it.
Yeah, it feels kind of steep. Like it's well animated, it's well written, it's funny, but man, that's a high asking price for what unless there is a lot of variability like we suggested earlier on, that's a lot of money per hour worth of entertainment.
Here's my counterpoint to that.
Okay.
Because I was actually hesitant to buy this game at first because I read somewhere that it was like took about 2 hours to beat, which actually I think it took me longer than that, especially the first time.
Mhm.
But these days you could easily spend that much money to go see a movie at a theater. And I feel like I got A, more time and B, more entertainment out of this game than I have out of most theatrical experiences I've had over the past couple of years. So I mean it's I think it's weird. Like I mean, and it's I guess you could say it's unfair to compare because they're different media, but like
Mhm.
I also feel like the developers this isn't really a game. I mean it is, but it's like I feel like this is more intended to be like a very specific experience. Um and I mean I as it is, I wouldn't want it to be any longer. I mean, I was getting to the point of being over it by the time I got the ending, which again I think is the point.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think especially when you compare it to other forms of entertainment for a similar price point, I felt like I got my money's worth out of it. And I mean, honestly, I'll probably go back and replay this again, even though I know what happens and have probably experienced most of the things there are to experience.
Did your wife watch you play this?
She didn't, but I honestly
I feel
feel
like you
like,
need to do a gummy and play this with her.
well, I mean, I might do that at some point. I think she would probably enjoy the experience just for the humor and everything.
Yeah,
So,
I
See,
mean,
my main sticking point here is um with movies, it's a little different because you can't just upload an entire movie to YouTube and have people watch it and then avoid paying for it. But that's not the same thing that happens with games. Like I could have hopped on YouTube, sat through a 2 hour let's play of this and gotten the same experience really. The inter what interactivity there is, I don't think it really was worth the price of admission for me. Because I could have just sat through it for free, basically watched somebody else do it and gotten.
Justin hates small independent studios. You heard it here, folks.
Well,
He would
I'm
rather
just
give
saying
his money to Marvel to see Deadpool and Wolverine than
that's
give
like the
it to this
one.
poor independent developer.
you'd rather support Bloober Studios for Silent Hill 2 remake.
Man,
Oh,
Wait,
don't you
Justin,
start with me,
Justin, wait a
Cody.
second. Wait a second.
Yes, yes.
Aren't you one of 17 people in America who paid to go watch Borderlands?
I got dragged there by a friend. Thank you very much.
That paid for
And
you?
what was that?
That
did
paid
your
for
friend
you?
pay for you?
No, I wish they had, but no. I do want that time and money back. But my thing is, there was no real gameplay to speak of in this. If there had been, I'd feel a bit more charitably towards it. But being that I mean, you can run around and slap things, but what you're running around and slapping is pretty much what you need to do with a few extras in order to get through the game. There's no variety, there's no real challenge except for that ending. So I don't know. It felt like, see, this is kind of why I almost wish there had been a bit of that old school adventure, element to it, where there was stuff to do and collect and use in weird and interesting ways. It would have at least been something to make it more interactive. Like Joe said, this is barely a game. Um,
I mean, I yes, but I don't know. I feel like especially in the past several years, I've kind of come around to appreciating. I feel like some developers are trying to make a piece of art. Like to me, this game is a work of art. I don't know. Did you ever play Firewatch, which was apparently actually published by the same publisher?
yes, and that one I liked because depending on what you interacted with and like what you tried to do, it did change. I think how the story played out, didn't it?
Ooh.
Not very much. There
Oh,
really is not much at stake in that game. I
oh,
mean, that is also just like really a way to tell a story that they wanted to tell. And I mean,
oh.
that's very much what this is. Like, so I understand what you're saying if you're thinking about it in terms of, if you put value on gameplay and things like that, but And I mean, certainly in most games that does matter, but I feel like to me at least, I can appreciate when someone is trying to use this, format to just tell an interesting story or, convey the ideas they want to convey. Like I don't think they clearly were not trying to make a, very intensive gameplay experience. I feel like they were trying to have us have the experience that we all had with this game, and it worked, damn it.
Fair. Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, they're entitled to your opinion. I just think this could have also just worked in that sense as an animated feature instead of marketing it as a game, market it as a movie at this point, because 2 hours worth of content, it would have. I mean, that's the thing. I don't understand why this had to be packaged as a game because what you do to interact with it is very minimal. And I've played walking simulators and that sort of thing too, so I understand the fact that
I
not every game has to be very intensive, but
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
the I feel like the redundancy of the limited gameplay is kind of the point though. Like I don't feel like you would. I mean, for one thing, if this was just a movie, I probably would have shut it off like a half hour in. Like as entertaining as it is, um I feel like I don't know. I just feel like the limitations of the gameplay and, again, the repetition of like having to go through the same paths repeatedly to get to different places and not having an easy way to do that. Things like that, I feel like are supposed to build you toward a sense of frustration before you get to the ending that kind of, conveys what they want you to feel. So I don't know if it would have worked as well if it wasn't an interactive experience, whether or not you want to actually call it a game. Cody and Brett, what do you guys think about all this though? You're being quiet over
Yeah.
there.
Well, it's just fun watching you two go at it. Actually, I was wondering like if they had made the gameplay style of this game similar to like the first two South Park RPGs, like how that would have worked in the context of the world, or how you think that would have worked. Because those games, you still really get like the dialogue humor, you get the situational humor that you walk upon people in, as well. But then you have kind of more of the inventory Justin's talking about, a little more variety. You probably have to add in enemies, and I guess it would really change how the game
Yeah.
worked. But then my question with that was like, even if it was more of a style of game like that, would you still, if like Justin, think if this had your inventory system you're asking for, and like
Sure.
maybe the gameplay had been a little bit different, would that change really your opinion of like the $20 for a 2 hour experience, or would you then want more than a 2 hour experience? And if so, does that
Um,
then raise the price of the game up again?
well, I mean, it kind of depends on how it would be implemented. Like, let's say the fishmonger's stall. Like, let's say you were able to pick up a fish with cigarettes coming out of its mouth or whatever, and
Yeah.
if you were able to like use that on various people or on various situations and have funny things happen, to me, I think that would
Mm.
have added significantly to the the amount of interactivity, even if those little interactions didn't lead to much. But I mean, it would have given it a sense of spontaneity. And there is some of that in the game, to be fair. I mean, you go around, you never know what's going to happen when you smack something. But this would have added an extra dimension of it, I think, where
Just
it's
like a
like,
little of object A meets person C, what happens when they
yeah,
combine type thing. Okay.
I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like that
just
would have like fundamentally changed the entire experience though, because
I think you're right, but
I feel
I
well,
think
I mean,
that's what he's asking for
yeah.
is
well, I know, but I'm saying like I feel like the limited gameplay was entirely by design. Like I think you're supposed to be frustrated by it after a certain point. I think you're supposed to like be kind of over it, and then it hits you with that ending, which is, you know, and
Mm,
if there was more in-depth gameplay and more things to do, and you felt more fulfilled on a, minute to minute basis, to me at least, I don't think the ending would have hit as hard as it did. Like I think everything was kind of by design, and whereas right before I got to the ending, I was like really kind of just fed up with it. I think that is ultimately the genius of the overall design of the game.
Brett's still being
Uh,
quiet. What'd you think?
I mean, there's
well,
that.
I'm hearing a lot of well-spoken intellectual thoughts. Mine are not nearly as eloquent. So my experience was, and maybe this says something about me, I don't know, but like I kind of made my own fun in the game by like I would just like run around and like in the garden. Like every time I went through that garden, I smacked down everything in that fucking like knock your shit down. I like knock out all the sticks. I uprooted all the corn, like every single time. It just amused me. I was like, that's fun. And like everyone was like walk around like smack her by the ass just because I could. It's just like I don't know. For me, I found a lot of humor and enjoyment just in like stupid little things like that you were allowed to do. And so while the the base game, what the mechanics and what like if you just went and straightforwardly did the these things that you're supposed to be doing, it would get like a bit stale, I think, and then feel a bit like lacking. For me, I kind of like was able like just kind of like I say make my own fun and just had a lot of enjoyment out of like weird little things within the game.
Brett likes Smacky Bum Bum.
He does like Smacky Bum Bum. The name of his new soccer team. Closed due to Smacky Bum Bums. Young kid soccer team.
But
Um, yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. Anything else you have on?
well, the last thing I'm going to say
Yeah.
regarding the would this have been better as like a movie or a cartoon or something? Um, I watched Monty Python like to death growing up, and that was just that was pretty much this game minus a few drugs, I think. Um, and that it was like vignettes that were silly, that made very little sense sometimes, that sometimes carried a fair amount of meaning, and they were still entertaining even if they weren't interactive. Um, Given that that precedent exists, I do think that this could have worked as just like a piece of visual media without necessarily making you try to figure out where the hell you're going, get frustrated, and then have that payoff at the end. I think that whole experience could have been more. It could have worked if it was entirely passive instead of including the little interactivity we got. And that's just me. But I'm just saying, Monty Python exists. That was successful. It is still funny. I think this could have worked in a similar format. So
Okay. Justin hates the British. You heard it here first,
Yeah,
everyone. This guy.
I'm not used to Cody not being the most wrong person on a podcast.
He was Justin was probably cheering for the Americans in the Revolution. Okay.
Uh,
I mean, I'm not that old.
Well, that's fair. Uh, yeah, okay. Anything else? Just slap some scores on this and call it good.
hey,
Right on the bum.
Right in the bum bums.
make some
Uh,
quirky nabbers.
yeah, I feel like we're about there. Yeah, let's do it up. Who wants to go first? Feel like Joe and Justin maybe are the
Fine.
counterpoints.
I'll go
You should
first
go
Do
first or
it.
last.
since
Okay.
I appear to be the most contentious among us on this. Um, it's a funny game. It's a very funny experience. It gets really weird and dark at times. It is quintessentially British humor in like all of its glory. And I respect that. I've always liked British humor. And this doesn't disappoint on that front. That said, it is baseline $20 of an experience for roughly 2 hours, maybe three if you're taking your time. Um, I enjoyed my time with it. I'm not sure I'd go back and replay it. Uh, I'm gonna give this one a 5.5 out of 10.
Woo!
Wow.
Woo! Woo!
This is why I'm America's favorite podcast host, and apparently Britain's too.
That's good stuff. Let's see. I can go in next year. The only debate for me, really, of putting a score on this is exactly one of Justin's qualms, which I think was like just the length of this. What I got out of this, I thought was really fun. I genuinely laughed out loud many times playing this game, just the wacky situations and wacky people, but it is still the price point for the very limited time with it. But I did enjoy it, and I would mostly agree with Joe's assessment that like a movie is essentially the same price, not quite $20, but I mean, I've seen worse movies in a theater than I've played of this game at home, so um where's the magic intersection between the two? I mean, if you can stomach the price point, like this is definitely a game I recommend without, even hesitating. And if you're into this kind of humor, doubly so. If you're not into this kind of humor, I guess that would maybe lower the experience. I guess maybe if I had played it with like out the dialect, that might have changed as well. Like part of the charm is that they're speaking in their own, you know, rural English way that they speak everything and describe everything. But I had a lot of fun with this one, so I would probably put this about just about a solid 8 out of 10 for me.
Uh, I think I echo all those thoughts. I definitely, for me, the price point versus the length, it definitely is. That's up there. For a game this length, I would probably more expect it to be more like 10 to 15, which, we're not talking hundreds of dollars here. It's the difference between me considering this being an appropriately priced game and being a slightly overpriced game is a handful of dollars, which we waste on a drink going to the gas station more than usually. So, it's not like it's some crazy price, but it, I think one of the things that does kind of soften that blow a little bit is the fact that it has so much humor and is so well done in that way and has just this really great fun vibe to it, that it does have some replayability, even though like there isn't like much like something like adventure game. There's you can kind of like do things differently in different orders and like have a different experience. I'm not certain that I think there's probably things that you could discover that you didn't the first time if you replayed it, but you're not necessarily going to have a different overall experience. But for me, that would be okay because like humor is something that I can easily repeat like multiple times and not really get like tired of it and be like, oh well, I already just seen that. Like like I'm gonna like enjoy laughing at these ridiculous jokes like multiple times. So I probably I would definitely would consider coming back and replaying this like after a certain period of time. So there's a bit of replayability there. I really enjoy the humor and just the quirkiness and just all the weird things going on that really fits into my my sense of humor and things I like. And I did play this with my wife, and we both really enjoyed it. We're just having a great time. Just like something would happen, and we just like look at each other like, what the hell just happened? And like, so there was like an extra value there that we were sharing this like this oddity. For me, I really enjoyed it. Like I say, the only thing that brings that the price brings it down a little bit. I'm gonna go 7.5 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
One snacky bum
Are you
bum.
using the metric system?
Listen, for just pennies a day, you can support a British independent developer.
Oh.
Honestly, it's kind of ironic to me that like ultimately I'm the only one who doesn't seem to have an issue with the price because when Cody had first proposed this game, I was like, wow, that's a lot of money for a 2 hour game. I don't know if I could justify that. But then once it seemed like everyone was going for it, and once I watched a trailer and kind of saw what it was, I was intrigued, so I spent that money. I think it was 16.99 on Steam when I bought it. Um, anyway, this is one of the most unique games I've ever played. Probably one of the most unique just experiences I've had, really. As I mentioned, I'm a big fan of British humor, and this is basically, surreal, absurd British humor, the game.
Yeah.
Um, but also more than that, it's an experience. Like it did a number on me. I feel like, as I said before, I feel like I had exactly the experience with this game that I imagine the developers want the player to have. Um, just the way it ends when it hits you with that just like batshit crazy musical sequence, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I did not see that coming, and I I really feel like this game is kind of a work of genius. Um, I mean, Justin and I obviously you can argue whether maybe it would have worked in another form or not. I honestly don't think it would have been as effective if it was not at least somewhat interactive as it is. And for me, just for the experience that I had, I think it's well worth the money. So I am going to ultimately give this a 9 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. Gives us a 7.5 on the money average for tonight. Not too shabby. Um, which goes to show Brett wins again. So there we go. Yeah. All right. This is where we tell Joe that the rest of us never really bought this game. We just watched it on YouTube.
What?
Um,
I mean, I don't care. It's still worth it.
did anybody, I didn't want to bring this up during anybody's final thoughts, but did anybody so those of you that played it on the PC, because I didn't see it on the Switch version, but it does say online like there's ways to 100% the game. And like on the Switch version, at least, it did not seem like there was any kind of tracking system whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I got a few trophies. I never really pay that much attention to that, though, to be honest.
okay. Seemed like the little bit I was reading, like there's some hidden stuff, like if you do things you might not normally do in the first playthrough, like you'll
Yeah.
get those other trophies, and there are maybe more little clips you could see.
Interesting. I mean, like one of the
So,
first ones I think I got was if you smack all of the mailboxes in the game, you get one.
okay.
You actually do get one for again, it is a real thing if you just let your character sit in the chair at the beginning for like 15 minutes.
That's
If
wild. That's so
yeah,
funny.
It
like
is.
but there's a trophy for that. Yeah, because well, when you first go to the mayor's office, the receptionist is like, "Oh, it'll be hours, so just sit here." But then after like 15 minutes, he comes out and he's like, "Oh, I told her I cleared my schedule so I could see you sooner. Come on in."
You can't beat the game by staying in your boss's office before that.
No, you have to
You
you
have
do
to
have to
literally
leave the
jump the
boss's
10
office.
stories out the window, and he's
Yeah,
like, the door's right there.
Right there.
which actually on my playthrough I tried. I was like, is there any way to avoid jumping out the window? Like, can you just go through the door or anything? But no, you have to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny though because I mean, well, so the actual ending, I mean, there's a musical sequence, like if you play it regularly, there's that crazy musical sequence, and then you kind of like run back to the, town hall or whatever to get away from all the crazy villagers, and you finally get your audience with the mayor, and the mayor's like, "Oh, thank goodness you're here.
We're
I've lost
here.
my mustard or something." Um, but if you play the shortened way and just wait the 15 minutes, you just go in and he basically says that he lost his mustard. But I mean, it obviously doesn't have the same impact as if you have gone through all of the shit already and then get to that.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, any closing other thoughts tonight from anybody? So, our real rankings tonight, after tonight's episode, we have Justin with 78 episodes, Brett with 77, and Joe with 70 still.
Ooh.
This is like watching the Major League Baseball standings when I was a kid. Whose game's behind here? The answer is Dave.
Say, how many does Dave have?
25.
Oh,
How many does Hudson have? Like six?
16.
Wow,
ooh,
that's more than I
double
would have guessed,
digits.
Yeah.
honestly.
What's your blue guess?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Blue
8.
has 8. I was gonna say
Yeah, he's at 9. Pretty close.
Oh.
So blue plus Hudson equals Dave, and triplicate Dave equals one of you guys. So there you go.
Man.
Pretty awesome. All right, awesome. Well, that is about it here for Thank Goodness You're Here. And
fun, 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 fun,
think
fun,
we
fun, fun, fun,
have, if we
fun.
stick to our schedule we're headed to, I think we're going to have our first, I was looking here, our first top 10 music episode in about 30 episodes. So it's been a long time since we've done one of those. And we also have our video game adaptations episode coming up. We've been kind of talking about, and luckily has been pushed back a few times, give us a chance to look at some more content out there because there is more than I thought there was. I will say, and Justin is, I don't even know how Justin is still alive after rewatching some of those 90s properties that he's been trying to catch up on, but he's still here.
Somehow.
You
I
didn't
mean,
get enough,
less painful than some of the stuff at work.
you didn't get, I don't think you had enough drinks for some of the stuff you said you've been watching recently,
I mean, I
so
haven't gotten back to the Bubsy the Bobcat cartoon or Earthworm Jim.
Oh
So
man.
yikes. Okay. All right, that's going to do us here at the Fawn Pod, everybody. Take care. This is Cody, that's Brett, that's Joe, and that's Justin, and we'll see you next time. Hey, fondlings and fondlers. This has been another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, your favorite podcast. It's most people's favorite podcast, or at least so my mom tells me. You can check us out all over the place online at our homepage, www.fondpod.com or fondpodcast.com. You can also check us out across your social media sites, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your streamed podcast. Thanks so much.